and just really clearing the field for a lot of realms. And I think that my proximity to the land made it so much more deeply profound for me to like, I don't want to say that I was holding the space like it was a just me thing. And I will say that I felt like I was holding this big container around an extremely profound transition for a massive group of humans.
Hmm.
And and not just humans. I want to acknowledge the type of humans that have experienced this, that they were deep medicine holders. They were holding a lot of wisdom of the land.
Hey everyone, I'm Caroline Rena, and welcome to Awakening Soul Divinity. I started about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago to just create something where we can share this information and just to connect and bring together what's going on with ourselves, especially as highly sensitives and empaths. And it's important to me that we get this information out there so people can start to, with all the things going on in the world and everything, I feel like it's important to understand what's going on. I would like to welcome Jane Ritz. I have known Jane for the last 2 years when I was doing my other podcast, The Ride of My Life. And we met intentionally. I was going to say accidentally, but I decided I wanted to do a cacao ceremony in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she was the one who was leading this cacao ceremony. And I have to say this, I warned her I was going to say this beforehand. She's like, "Cacao, it's such a feminine, gentle medicine." Well, for me, nothing seems to be gentle. It was the most powerful thing and I don't go with bigger medicines like that. I was feeling like I was going to be safe in that environment, which I was. It was just the after effect. Jane, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing where this conversation goes. And yeah, this time that we've known each other has expanded both of our lives so much. And I watch you online all the time, and I'm like totally blown away in the difference of who I met 2 years ago and who I see now. And I think it's incredible. And if you want to just do a little introduction of yourself, and then I'll dive into the questions. That's kind of where we're going to go with it. So
Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm so excited about this project and this offering that you are so courageously creating at such a pivotal time in humanity. Thanks.
yeah,
I
sure.
am, so I call myself a spiritual guide. Sometimes I call myself a quantum shaman, but because I've chosen a white woman body, I tend to stay away from that term, although that's the realms in which I work. And it's been my path for so many moons. And it wasn't until 2016, 2017 where I couldn't do the jobby job anymore. And I was like, must live, purpose, serve all, not just privileged people that can afford my prices. And so I've spent since then guiding people back to love, basically. And that looks like a myriad of ways, from cacao ceremonies to one-on-one sessions to movement to tantric approaches to studies and books, depends on what avenue the individual is kind of desiring to go in, whether they have a conscious awareness about it or not. So that's been my path and purpose. And it's a fun one.
Yeah. So can you explain a little bit about like what you're doing now to kind of guide people?
You know, it's it's really interesting now in my life. I've been working with private clients that are doing more of like a mentorship with me. So they're committing to a certain time frame, a certain just immersion where we really clear out all of the programs in their path that keep their heart from actually fully being its creative expression. So that looks different for everyone. Some it's like they just want to know the knowledge and how does this work and consciousness and energy and the quantum and all that. And some are like opening up to spiritual gifts and not understanding that what they're seeing and hearing and feeling is truly a gift. So working with them on how to actually navigate being a highly sensitive person in these other realms and how to anchor it into their human and then be able to share it as a gift. And then, to people that are moving through massive transitions in their life, birth, death, creative birth, businesses closing, businesses starting. So that's what I've really been focusing on top of I have monthly classes that I offer online. I have a Patreon community that people can join and get some insider personal stories of like, this is what's happening with me. Glitching out or whatever. But also some of my writings and some videos, some meditations, some practices, some activations, and things of that nature. And on top of all these like service avenues that I've been working with, this is the first time in my life, and it's been about going on almost a year now, where my focus has been doing deep, I call it integration and dissemination work, where I'm annihilating, I'm allowing myself the time, space, and grace to really go inward and to clear out any extraneous programs that I still may be carrying in my subconscious and psyche because I don't need to carry it and neither does the collective. And while I'm doing that, also integrating a lot of light, a lot of coding, a lot of new patterning, a lot of widening of my channel with Great Spirit and Pachamama herself. So it's a very interesting now that I'm experiencing. So
Yeah.
to sum all that up, yeah.
Tell I get that, not exactly the same as you're doing it, but I get that. It's like jumping willingly into the fire of transformation and the darkness to clear all that stuff out, to become that open vessel to help, whatever we're here to do. And in some cases, we don't know in the moment. I just, for myself, it's like, okay, here comes another one. Time to grieve, time to do this, time to do that, time to separate from everybody and just sit with myself. And it's like most of the stuff when it comes up and out, it's like light, like the feeling of being so incredibly like we're in heavy bodies. We are set up that way on this planet. When we release the excess heaviness that doesn't belong inside of us, there creates a whole nother level of, like, I'm sure you have, but to the audience, have you ever experienced when you just release or let go of something, even something as simple as decluttering your kitchen drawer? And when you're done, you open, like I used to open the windows and spring clean and, do all this stuff. And when I was done, it was like all this stuff came off my shoulders. So from that, I dug deeper, and you're going even deeper, and now I want you to share though a little bit. I know where you are and I know what you're doing. And I would like for you to give, because this is also part of your journey. And it just was interesting how the timing was in your journey of where you are at the moment and what you're working through and healing and bringing to the surface and releasing at this point. Do you mind sharing some of that?
No, I don't.
Very
I don't
interesting.
mind. Yeah, I don't mind at all.
Good.
So I'll just preface this briefly with after I moved out of the United States last year, around this time, actually, it's been right about a year that I sold my home. I was guided to go to Costa Rica and sit at the altar and be still and listen. Okay, great. Well, eventually I'm like, you gotta tell me what to do. Like, I don't know, you got it. And I kept hearing like, shut up, be still and listen, like patience, like grasshopper.
That's a
So
long
eventually,
patience, though. I know.
pardon?
I said that's long-term patience.
Yeah, I've honed that one.
Yes.
Um, and so, I was shown to go back to the States in May, and then I was shown that I would leave the States in September. That's all I was shown, and I was like, okay. So I go back to the States. I was shown to go to Utah. The route that I took to Utah was really impactful, just connecting with the land and the indigenous that had tended that land for so many hundreds of years. So while I'm in Utah, I get a call from a friend and says, hey, can you house sit for me in North Carolina? Yes. And I was like, wow, I didn't even think about that. I didn't look at my calendar. So, okay. it happened to be the week after I got back from France, which that trip was in September. That was me leaving the country in September. So I got back from France, immediately came here. A week later, there
Wait,
was this hurt. Oh,
so you ended up in back in North Carolina in the middle, oh, at the beginning, at the end of September. Am I getting that right?
mid-September.
September. Okay. Yeah, because I remember.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, the timing is wild. And I've never been to this town, and I'll share with you that detail in just a moment. So I get here, and a week later, there was this hurricane. Now, the town that I am currently staying in, this cabin that is probably on one of the highest parts of this neighborhood specifically, is on the very physical border of North Carolina, where all the devastation occurred from Hurricane Helene. That the closest town to me was the last town west or east that flooded. And so I am at this physical border between everything's fine and complete devastation and what I have been doing. And part of my prayer practice and connecting with the land, and I've been sitting with the waters and the trees, and I was feeling so much during the hurricane. I was feeling the earth move. I was getting messages and downloads of there will be death. There will be death. There will be death. And, like, get ready. And I was like, okay. So I allow myself to fully feel all of this and the deep prayers and times at the altar of allowing myself to go into um, the, I'm going to say the physical realm, although it is through my heart and consciousness. So my physical body isn't doing this. So when we talk like shamanic terms, I went there to these realms, and these realms were very in the physical, and I was going to where numerous humans are still buried. They were buried with the floodwaters, with the mud, with debris, and witnessing them and this energy that's being held around them because their loved ones are only half grieving,
Hmm.
because their loved ones are holding on to so much hope that they'll be found and be okay. So there's this energy that's been around all of these beings of like, I'm going to use words, and I don't want to hold any belief to this as a way or the way. It's just for the story. But it's almost as if this spirit in this body is like, I'm dead and nope, I'm not. I'm transcending. Oh, nope. Because there's so much energetic pull of hope, like they'll be found, they're still here
Mhm.
because everything is in the quantum, so interconnected and interwoven.
Well, let me ask you a question because I've listened to information on near-death experiences and how, death works and some of these things. And one of the thing that I've always been curious about is how, as we here on the planet, when we don't grieve and we can't grieve and we don't let go of a loved one, they kind of stay in some sort of a holding pattern where their soul can't do anything. Like they can't go, they may not be able to stay, but they can't go because the loved one, through not being able to let go of them, is not allowing that. Is that something that you've come across? Is that what you're saying, kind of? Or
Kind of, yeah. It's like when we look at the bigger scale with say someone close to me dies, and I refuse to grieve it, and whatever my process is that I'm disallowing. Um, that's going to be because that's a long-term thing. That's a long timeline. This is so far a month. So that's a shorter timeline.
right, right.
So when we look at like a wave pattern, the long timeline of like, yeah, my uncle passed and I'm too busy. I got to go back to work.
Mhm.
I don't have time to cry. He was kind of a jerk anyway, or like whatever. And so that timeline, imagine that being like this really widened wave pattern. Now we compress that into a month, and it's like I'm grieving because I know what just happened. Big flood. Most people are dead. Obvious, right? But then my heart's like, but, maybe they're still on the mountain. Maybe they're staying with someone that still doesn't have cell service. So it takes that long wave pattern and it makes it more like this. So I don't know if you remember, if anyone remembers these toys. I used to love them. And it was like this big balloon with a rubber band, and you would hold the rubber band and you would just go, yeah.
Yes, I had
So
one of those. I love those things.
so
Yeah.
fun. So
So,
imagine that energetically, where when the ball is out, this spirit of your loved one is like, yeah, I'm free. And then when it contracts back, it's like, oh God, wait, nope. Now, because we're all one, and so the whole soul is never emboldened and encased in anything, unless that's the belief.
mhm,
Belief is what creates everything. So, aside from that, so that means that the bigger part, the wholeness of that spirit doesn't fully dive back in to the full immersive experience of source to then like say, okay, now what do I want to do? You
mhm,
know, how do I want to rain down my love? Or do I want to be a tree next time? Or let me just witness. There's like it's almost like um what I just see is when a child is like playing and then you turn a TV on, how the kids like, huh?
mhm.
It's like they can't look away from the TV and it takes them away from creation and play. So very similar. The creation play child is like, yeah, I'm free. But then if someone is still so connected through the quantum, believing that they're still here, then
Right.
it takes their attention away, if you will. Like that's just an analogy.
Interesting.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. Okay. So continue on your journey at this
Oh,
beautiful station. I sidetracked you a little bit. Now let's come back because this
I
is
love it.
yeah.
I love questions. I absolutely love questions because so many questions we've not been asked. I've not been asked. So I get to like see it differently than I've ever seen it. So here I am, I'm in this cabin and I'm basically what feels to be like in a tree house. And what I recognized was, so, I lost power, water, and cell service for quite a few days. I couldn't get out for like a day or two because trees had fallen and blocked the road. And so all I had was me and the earth. And the earth speaks so loudly to me. She and I've had a very close relationship my entire life. And I call source Great Spirit. It just flows out of my face that way. And so Great Spirit was like, it felt to me like I was like in this doula ship, a doula, where I was supporting the transition of all of the life that was shifting around me. I was allowing myself to mourn for the humans, the animals, the tree spirits. I was allowing myself to go down to the water here and pray to her because so many people were hating her. So I was also reconciling relationship with the waters and acknowledging that I know that what she was doing was what she was here to do and that I hold no judgment on her and just really clearing the field for a lot of realms. And I think that my proximity to the land made it so much more deeply profound for me to like I don't want to say that I was holding the space like it was a just me thing. And I will say that I felt like I was holding this big container around an extremely profound transition for a massive group of humans
Mhm.
and not just humans. I want to acknowledge the type of humans that have experienced this, that they were deep medicine holders. They were holding a lot of wisdom of the land. And to me, that's a deep genetic coding that is being distorted in humanity.
Now,
And
as
I think that,
you say that, is that when are you saying that it's distorted in general, or and we're just opening up to find out that these people exist basically, and we need their information, or how? What do you mean when you say that?
I mean, that our culture in the United States of America has turned so deeply into the screens
Mm,
and living in and working in environments that are so disconnected from outside the ground, air, fresh air, sunshine, real water, like truly earth, nature stuff. And it's those that are still connected that still hold wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Now, someone new can go in and get connected and they start to actually activate genetic coding of a deep inner wisdom that we as humans all have within us. And so, just culturally speaking, a lot of people that died and are moving through a lot of hardship right now hold deep wisdom that I find to be extremely important for um, a more comfortable evolution for humanity.
Which, when things like, I noticed when big catastrophes like this happen, though, these people can do more good by being their souls being released from their bodies than they can where no one has access to them if they're on the planet. Does that make sense when I say that?
Mhm.
And I'm seeing a lot of people leaving the earth right now in just general circumstances, old age and, illnesses and all these things, but it keeps happening in this cycle. Even during 2020, I remember there were a couple of women that I'd followed that I was learning information from, like you're talking about, and both of them died from cancer. But they only had like this, that was weird. So they only had like this certain group of people that followed them. Now, to me, it feels like that they're helping from a different realm and they can reach more people based off of, you know, what it is that they do up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hoping I'm understanding this correct, in a way that makes sense and kind of redescribing it, because this is how I've seen it. And for you to be able to, you are holding this space. And I'm sure there's a lot of people doing that. I was doing it. I mean, I'm doing it from Florida for grief. Like I cried non-stop from the minute that thing hit until, I don't know, about 5 days ago, but I could feel a release happening once I started slowing down with the grieving. So I know that there are a lot of people out there, probably especially empaths or highly sensitive people, that are doing this kind of work. So it's interesting how hearing it from someone else who's doing something in that realm is really powerful. So, thanks
Mm.
for sharing that piece of it.
Well, with what you said, kind of inspired this prelude to the future. Um, when we do transition, we become a bigger aspect.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say we return to the light or however that appears to someone. So we turn into a larger aspect. And then we can fractal off. We can come into form again, or we can fractal off almost like raindrops coming in and planting seeds in the spirits and souls and hearts of humanity. We can also, depending on beliefs, is we can become a walk-in, is what I think what they call them, where it's like, you know what, this person, they're ready to wake up. They're ready to feel love. They're ready to feel the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. And so, we have walk-ins, we'll call it that. And so that's how we can, after we transition, have such a greater impact because oftentimes, like for the example of the people in the Appalachians, they typically have been from a lower socioeconomic status because they are mountain folk and they've been completely disregarded by so many as just ignorant mountain people, forgetting that they are completely full of information that would keep us alive without any government.
Same as with the Native Americans.
Oh, totally. So because this group of community has been so far removed from society's honoring, really, the power and potency of their voice has been ignored.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for them to no longer be in form and to have an opportunity to inspire hundreds, if not tens of hundreds, if not thousands and millions of voices to stand up and speak about community, love, harmony with life, symbiotic relating with each other and life and earth, and the gift that is.
Well,
And
let me interrupt real quick. I apologize.
please.
I'll forget. But the thing about that I understand about this stuff is again, you already said this, but their connection, their direct connection shown through your experience with the earth and the water and the river and the trees and and that environment in and of itself creates that space or that understanding. And the thing is that, I do, and I'm going to keep sharing this over and over because this is as close as I can get because I live in South Florida, where there's not a whole lot of opportunity to do it. But I have started again to ground. I haven't been able to get out into nature. However, I sleep grounded. I have a mattress cover. I have a thing that I put under my feet. I have a thing that I normally, that's not on my back right now, whoopsie, that I put on my back. I have patches. Different things that create this. It's plugged into the ground in the outlet, and it goes directly into the earth. So there is a grounding effect there, and we are supposed to be connected to the earth 24/7. And nobody understands that because we've been so disconnected from the earth and having opportunities. Oh, I don't know why I was kept from this, but I was supposed to go to a retreat. That's what I was telling you. That's how we started this whole conversation, before the hurricane happened. I was supposed to go up there from the 21st to the 26th in one of the towns, Bakersville, that was hit, one of the hardest hit communities. I didn't get to go, and I don't get to create that space, but I'm creating it here the best way I can for whatever reason. But that's the thing. It's like, for me, being out in that was my intention, to be on the earth, to walk barefoot, even if it's cold up there, to connect with the water. There was a creek that ran through there that literally that turned into a river during the storm. It's like, but it's still there. And it was protected. And there's an opportunity for me to go back up there, but that's what we need to get back to. Our children are not connected to the earth. The shoe companies, the bed companies, you name it, we have been lifted off of the earth and disconnected to the point where 99 probably percent, I'm going to throw it out there, of our diseases, of our mental capacity, all this stuff is being disrupted because we don't have that connection with the earth. And that's what's so important. So when I hear you saying that, I'm like, oh, I want to do that. You've had this opportunity, and I can see a difference even in the last 3 weeks with you. In comparison, like mine's steady, it's okay, but I still jump. I'm still jumpy because of, I live next to a turnpike and I'm hearing sirens, and, it's like there is no quiet where I live at all. Horns beeping, trash trucks coming by, the whole thing. And that's what I was going to navigate this from, but it didn't work out that way. But the bottom line is the connection that you are having with the earth and hearing, you can hear it. She does speak to you. She wants us to connect with her. Mother Earth wants that for her and for us, because it gives her a reason for doing what she does when we connect with her, especially when we connect with her. So,
and, just kind of expanding on that, we are spirit, we are matter. We can come from the stars, we can come from this, we can come from that. No matter what, we also come from earth. Our blood alone, the 64 elements that make up our blood also are the exact 64 elements that make up the earth's crust. So when I say that she's the mother, she actually is.
Yeah.
And societally speaking, when the colonizations occurred, and I'm going to use the word the church, and I don't mean religion. I mean the church with a capital C, when I think the Romans were like, hey, Yeshua, we're going to kill you, and we're going to take your stories and we're going to call it our own. Okay, bye. With that, it turned the whole relationship with life into God is only something outside of you. Which was the complete disconnect to the wholeness for the holy to be experienced in form and in heart. And that shows itself in our relationship with the earth. What I find to be just utterly fascinating is because, a lot of your audience I feel that they're, intuitive, highly sensitive, like empathic, like people that understand the unseen world through their emotional body, through what they see or experience. And what I find just really Just a little kick in the guts. Guts. The earth, just standing on the earth alone, helps our gut microbiome. Now, what's so important about the gut microbiome? Yeah, I get to poop easier. That's great. I love that. And when our gut microbiome is healthy, then we don't have a leaky gut as much, which all the food in the States is designed to actually annihilate the gut lining using glyphosate.
Mhm.
So if we have a healthy gut microbiome, then that helps to keep that gut like walled up and solid. So great. What that does, what that then means for the human is that we now can produce more serotonin. Serotonin comes from the brain and the gut.
Mhm.
So not only, yay, I have more serotonin, I feel happier. That changes my frequency. That changes my alignment, my channel, my connection with Great Spirit, the medicine that I'm to bring here as someone that works with energy. Not only that, it also impacts our intuition
Mhm.
because we have our gut instinct, right? We have all these other instinctual areas of beacons to say, this is the way. Now, if we are not connected to our gut instinct, which is also the brain stem area, then we have, say, a natural occurrence that we need to get to high ground, or we need to go west, or we need to whatever. We won't be connected to our own intuition to hear, feel, sense, and go and make the choice for our own survival.
Mhm.
So then we end up being completely disconnected. Our intuition is shot, our stomach hurts, we're not happy, and then something is happening in nature and we get blindsided.
Mhm.
We don't
Mhm.
need to be blindsided. We look at the stories of the Hopi. The Hopi, they've been said to have traveled around the Americas for different like lifetimes, and they would stay somewhere and they would community and all of these things. And then, some things would get out of whack, but then they would leave and go somewhere else.
Mhm.
Where they went, they were following intuition to keep life thriving as human.
Mhm.
If we were made to do that now, I feel like it would be like ants scattering in a ton of different directions and people just saying no, no, and what do I do? And
Mhm. Mhm.
and I think that's just a statement to the importance of connecting with the earth.
Right. And the thing is that if you pay attention to how, like, I don't know what happened in the mountains because it was so quick that I'm wondering what with the animals. So I remember years ago there was a tsunami or something that happened in Hawaii, and just before it hit, like 2 days before it hit, the animals, at least the ones that were free roaming, all went up to the top of the mountain. And guess what? Animals don't wear shoes. Animals are connected to the ground. Animals sleep on the ground. They know what to do. When I heard that, I was like, hmm. So there's something to be learned and understood. This stuff that you and I are talking about, that other people like us are talking about, needs to be heard, because the thing that most people are most interested in is, at least in the US that I notice, is here we come. We're coming up on Christmas, and it's only October, and Halloween hasn't happened yet, and it's already, the consumerism is already, commercials and all that stuff has begun. What is more important? Life, love, peace, bliss, connection, or this? Because you can, guess what? If anything goes wrong or goes down, this becomes a lead weight. That's it.
Mhm.
And you don't have all of the other things. And that's what most people are looking for in the purchasing of all these things. We think that we're going to achieve or be able to create all these things by buying all this stuff. That does nothing for us. That only
Mhm.
does stuff for whoever's selling or whoever's, the market or whatever. A lot of us don't have the understanding of what it does to be so involved in, so to speak, a three dimension, where we are now, that we don't understand that when we start to step back, when we start recognizing, and a lot of us as highly sensitives and empaths recognize that something's up. What do I do? And this is actually leading into, I just thought about this. This is actually leading me into a couple of things. So one of the main things that I talk about on this podcast is about people who work with people like yourself in a direct or an indirect way to help heal trauma. The earth can help with that. I mean, there's so many things, but in relation to trauma, a lot of times, and I'm curious just to find out from you, I know I'm kind of bouncing out, but I'm also trying to be wary of time too. Did you have like a personal trauma that created a catalyst for you to overcome into what you're doing now? Was that part of your journey, or was it? Because I've also spoken with people that don't like actually go through this big, or even a small one, remembering. But did you have something like that? So, because there's a lot of people I noticed in the group that I have, old souls, highly sensitives, and empaths, that when they first started coming in, they were like, this is all the trauma I've had, and this is all these things that are happening. I don't know how to get out of it. I'm curious to know when I talk to people what that is for them, and how you use that as a catalyst to become or come to where you're at now. Sense?
So how do you use asking me about like what my trauma experiences are, and then how I kind of looped past them, through them?
I would not say past.
Yeah, through. Yeah.
So you start with a trauma experience if you had one. If you didn't, that's fine too. You can talk about, I'd love to hear that aspect of it. But if you have, then, if you've experienced something, that you can show people that it's okay and beneficial to walk through it and heal it and grieve it and create a different life for yourself. Is that what happened with you, or did you have something else that brought you into this realm, so to speak?
Right. I love this question, especially with how you kind of started this, talking about how, you're releasing these things and how you feel so much lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of reiterating that point, that concept. So the pattern that I received from birth on would be considered neglect. So
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
I don't belong in my family, I don't exist, put in a crib and ignored. And once I got old enough to like go outside and play by myself, that was what I did. So I would sit next to my blue spruce next to the house and just sit there. And the blue spruce was my bestie.
That
And I
hasn't
would play with the dirt,
changed.
right? Yeah. Like, dummy, Um, and so, I didn't realize at the time that I was going to the earth for comfort and support. Of course not. I was following instinct gratefully. And I was also in the timeline that I didn't have devices. I didn't have video games. I had the Atari at my dad's house, but I only saw him every other weekend. So, and then, over the course of my life, I'll say that my traumas included the program,
Mm-hmm.
all types of conditioning programs of I'm not worthy, I'm ugly, I'm useless, I'm weak, I'm stupid, all of those things. And I've had experiences with addictions and really unhealthy relationships from others and abusive relationships with myself. And so my body was reflecting so much of that. I've been morbidly obese. I've been regular, I don't know, a regular sized human. I don't know what you call that, an average, I suppose. And and so all this abuse was showing up in my physical. And so my physical stopped working. I've gone through periods where my traumas had compounded so much without me facing them and with love and an open heart and compassion, that I've had times in my life where I could barely walk.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, I could barely walk. I couldn't get off the floor without being helped up. I couldn't bend over. Extreme pains. And so in that, once I learned, oh wait, my body, oh, messenger, you know, the first time I realized that, I spent 8 days releasing grief and trauma. And it was 30 years of grief and trauma that I was releasing. And it was a very big ask of my emotional and physical body to do that. And I think that was when the universe understood that like, oh, Jane can do this. Like she can do this. She's
You're strong.
she can do this.
You are
And
good enough. Yeah.
yeah. And so this is my pattern is my body will show me the message of whatever traumas are still active. And I want to say that we can heal a trauma, and there might still be echoes of it in the chamber of our life that don't necessarily mean that we're bad or that we are unhealed and we're not worthy of then being a service provider in the way that we are. To me, it says that no, the collective is ready to up level too. So do the work, face that trauma, love it, like integrate that shadow and send it out to others.
Mm-hmm.
I want to really, I know that's not remotely what you asked, but I feel like it's very deeply important that whatever work we do, that
Uh-huh.
we send it out for the greater good.
Do we
You
necessarily
know, that
need to send it though, or is it an automatic energy that just kind of like a lighthouse, almost like a lighthouse? Like, does it automatically expand out when we are in a in a healing mode or healing process? Is
it
that
depends.
yeah?
If someone's very self-centered and I only care about my healing because I want to be better, I want to make more money, I want to look better, then yes, my vibration will have an impact in the field. However, if my heart says in prayer, this is for you, this is for you, brothers and sisters, this is for you, Pachamama, this is for you, babies that have not been born. This is all for you. It's a dedication, it's a devotion, it's a gift, and it's an offering. And in that, the frequency emits from the toroidal field of the heart, which is far beyond the toroidal field of energy of our regular human.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
it goes through what we call time and space. And it breaks the laws of the physics that we've been taught.
Yes.
It emanates a much higher frequency.
Yeah, but you have to do the work. You have to be willing to do, like I've said this before, be willing, be courageous, be free. And you have to make a choice to do it because as humans, we all have the sovereignty to make choices in every moment. And that to me is what's so important to be able to get to that point, what that you're talking about. Now, what's interesting also, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this one, is in relation to this, how do you see the changes in what's happening in the world right now related to the healing of our nervous systems and the trauma?
Well, I see it, I see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely happening. And with that, I don't like the word test. Okay. Like, I don't think that we're being tested. However, if I go to a pool every day because I want to learn how to swim, and then one day I go to the ocean is going to test me because she's there and I want to swim. Okay. So, like that. So then what happens is, as we're healing all these nervous systems and our capacity to be in presence, you know, like truly just being in presence, then we get opportunities to uh, use that healed nervous system. We get opportunities to see the shadow, see the pain and suffering, because it's only then that our nervous system says, oh, yeah, that's suffering. And then it doesn't react and trigger and
Mm-hmm.
shut down. Rather, it stays open. And then the heart can then like look at the situation with such a more openness and so much more compassion and like, oh, that's suffering, and not like I need to blame somebody for it and pointing fingers and blah, 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 all the things. So I see it as a great, I don't want to say it's the great awakening. I feel like we had a great awakening quite a few years ago now that people woke up to this realization of like, oh my God, it's all about love. Oh God, it's love. Oh yes. You know, I feel like this is right. What I feel is happening is the great embodiment. And that would be the reflection of the stories of Christ coming back, Christed consciousness. It's not, to me, it's not Jesus is coming back. It's Christ consciousness. Christ wasn't the being, it was a state of being. It's being Christed.
Mm-hmm.
Christed is the physical human holding unconditional love, radical acceptance, and being a human here on the earth plane.
Mhm.
And that's what I see happening is our nervous systems are getting an opportunity to hold the light and the love of the Christed so we can truly experience heaven on earth because we are that.
Well, that's why we're
We
here.
we are that.
We're
Mhm.
right. Right. And it's interesting. I love the fact that you brought up embodiment because that is, to me, the key to the clearing and the healing of uh, mind, body, spirit, all as one body, or however we're set up in that. I noticed in my own healing journey that, I'm very analytical. I've always been in my head. I've always been trying to control things and trying to figure things out and put the puzzle pieces together and this and that and this and that. And it just got me into a heck of a hole trying to do that because nothing ever worked that way, And so I remember as I started my healing process, I kept being brought to the body. I kept being brought into, why am I so disconnected from my body? Why do I want nothing to do with my body? Why do I hate my body? Now that's a little societal thing going on there too. So all these programs and everything that we've learned about, like you were saying, not good enough. And like for me, it was I had to be a good little girl, and all this kind of thing. It was all putting us in a space where we were so focused outside of our bodies that we didn't even understand. Even the medical field pushes us into this headspace where it's like we're dependent on
Mhm.
a doctor or a pill or a surgery or whatever. The body can heal itself. Have you ever had a paper cut? Have you ever watched it heal? That's what happens in your whole body. And when I found out, when I started to actually start paying attention to all this stuff, and then a couple of years ago, and I've shared this on a few of my interviews, and it just boggles my mind. I was going through, I just traded my lease in for another car, and I wasn't thinking, and this was right before I was getting ready to go on the road. And so I told my insurance company, sure, I'm going to be going 15,000 miles this year. And back then, my rates I got an email saying that my rates went up by $200 a month. And I was like, oh my gosh, I fell right into my stress response and my all this, like I'm walking like, and I'm watching myself, but my whole body is in stress. I'm walking around, oh my God, I can't pay for this. I can't do that. Total lack, total, I don't know how the heck this is happening because I didn't have much money back then. And all these things were coming up. And as I was doing this, because I've had over 30 years of therapy, right? So I'm watching myself. There's this like external me watching me do this. And I'm like, why are you doing that? You're in a safe space. You don't need to freak out. Everything is going to work out. Oh, Ma! And I'm like, why is my body? Okay. So finally, after the whole thing was over with, that was when I went on the road intentionally to stay with people who knew how to do somatic work. And so I got into the tapping and the, breath work and all these things kept reconnecting. Before I did that, I was still maybe not as bad as it was the year before, but I was dissociating. I was always dysregulated. I needed to be around regulated people to get me back into being regulated. I had no idea how to do any of this stuff. And when I went on the road and did all these things and released all these things and connected to the earth, I was in Colorado Springs, I was in Oklahoma, I was getting connected with the ground, the ground barefoot, all this stuff. And when I got back, I started to recognize the difference. It was like magic. It was the only word I could come up with because the lack piece left. I started attracting things into my life, and I'm like reading about all these people that can do this. And how come I'm not one of them? And all these things just started happening. But I had to step out of my comfort zone and into my body to feel. That's a big one because we're also taught not to feel, especially men in our society, especially men in my generation. But grieving is feeling. I had to grieve everything. So I had to get connected. And the most interesting thing I learned on this embodiment piece was in the grief. I remember there was a moment that I was going through something and I looked at the clock for some reason. And then I turned back and I just allowed myself to just cry and release and bawl and I look back at the clock. It was 6 minutes later after I was done. We think that it lasts forever. It was 6 freaking minutes, right? So it's not as hard as we make it out to be because we're resisting this. And once you clear all of these energies out of your nervous system, the anger and the fear and the sadness and all that stuff literally opens that channel up. So when another, like, life is going to happen, you're going to be sad for some reason, you're going to be angry for some reason, but instead of that anger or sadness coming into your system and getting and bumping up about, against the one that's already in there, that's been cleared so it can flow through. And now there's a connection and all that stuff that you were talking about, connecting with the Mother Earth and with, higher power or higher self or whatever you want to call it, source or God or whatever. It becomes this open channel. So all these things that all these ancient peoples have been talking about, the meridians, the chakras, the whatever, that's what that is. This is just a very layman term of what I learned in working out that, but it was all embodiment. It's all like, oh, look, I'm safe. I'm in this moment. I don't have to work. And maybe even like, a hug. That's embodiment. That's if you can't get a hug from somebody, that's still embodiment, right? So I love that. That as you can see, that kind of stuff gets me excited. So that's a good thing. So embodiment, I mean, do you have anything else you'd like to add on to that and what I just all the blah, blah, blah I just shared?
I love that you shared that. I mean, it's so much like, yes, yes, yes to all of it, and I feel like all the teachers of wellness, of spiritual wellness, mental wellness, emotional, and all that, like these are all paths. Mental health is a path to wholeness, energetic health, path to wholeness. And then we have the only path to wholeness for the physical that we have had traditionally has been let's work out.
Right.
Well, right, yes, and there's a tenderness that we have not been taught.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that tenderness is what gets us through the feeling and allowing the feelings, so that they can rise and crescendo and then subside, you
Mhm.
know. And something that's come through for me very recently was an awareness that I was not desiring my body,
Mm.
and not in a sexual way. Rather, my story is that it's because of the neglect. It was like I literally wasn't wanted.
And
You
self
know,
want. If they don't want me, I don't want me either.
right. And I've done all this work on all my other health and healing journey and working out and acupuncture and all the
Mhm.
things on the physical. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've told my body that I trust her. And I do. I trust her with all of my heart, and she trusts me. What I haven't told her is that I choose her,
Mm.
that I love her and I actually choose her, that I
Mm.
wouldn't choose anyone else over her, that she is beautiful and the most important being. And without her, I literally would not live.
Mm.
And to allow myself, my physical body, to feel what that feels like to be so deeply chosen. I've been in relationships where I felt like I was the chosen partner. Well, they didn't work out. How
Mm.
many relationships have we had where we're like, oh my God, he or she chose me. I'm worthy now. Yes. And then it breaks up and then it really starts to defrag our whole like vision of ourselves and our worthiness
Yeah.
if we don't really feel like the same as like the oak tree chose to be that oak tree. And it would never be good at being any other tree. And
Mm.
it's so great that it is the oak and that it does the thing that oaks do and all the oaky stories that whatever. And when I look at myself like that, like, oh, I actually chose this and not like, oh, I chose this. What's wrong with me for choosing this?
Right. And people
But
do
it's
that all the time in their lives, so that's all they know until they do
right.
until they do what you're sharing. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's why it's so important to stay in unconditional love and radical acceptance first and foremost. So that we know when I look at my body and whether I weigh 800 pounds or 80 pounds, that I am choosing this and what a gift it still is.
Yes. Yes.
I could have great vision, not great vision. What a gift it is that I get to be here with this experience
Mhm.
informed, that I get to sense the frustration of not seeing clearly, or I get to enjoy the exuberance of seeing the colors on the trees change, and really be able to fully desire the form of me
Mhm.
so that I could experience life. And I feel like that's a key part of the embodiment that I don't think really gets the full attention and the full nurturing that I find to be a really key piece.
Yeah, well, I don't think that that's not been part of our programming. That's not been part of our process in teaching our children that. I mean, that's what these things are happening to shift all of this stuff. So thank you. I mean, that was beautiful. I appreciate that because there's so many, especially women. I'm sure men have body, what do they call it? Body
We'll just body issues. We'll just say issues. Because I
issues.
mean, it's all dysmorphia and
Yeah,
all of it. There's issues.
issues. With women, I feel like there's like an overwhelming amount of it. I mean, so many women don't feel good about themselves, but I think that's also part of our history and our programming as women. And I know everything leads into something else, open up a whole can of worms and go down this whole other, path on new things to talk about. So I'm reeling it in. In that though, with stuff like this that comes up for people with how they feel about their bodies, how they feel about their life, how they feel about these things happening in their life. What can you offer to people who are having a challenge, especially being empathetic or sensitive with what's going on in the world? Because there's so much happening right now, and there's so much fear, and there's so much importance that we're placing on the fear because, you know, for lack of better words, our psychology and the people who know how to run things know how to play on our fears. So, what can we offer to people who are having a challenge with that, especially being empathetic or sensitive? Because it's an even deeper experience for someone like that with what's happening. Can you kind of touch on that?
Yeah. The first thing I say is to take a deep breath
Okay.
because that just always feels good. And then reminder of it's just now.
Yeah.
This now moment is just now.
This too shall pass.
Yeah. And not only is this now just now, we're also eternal,
Hmm.
so we have an eternity of nows to make peace. We have an eternity of nows to hate. We have an eternity of nows to experience however we wish to experience the finite.
Hmm.
And in that, I feel that the eternal now is the key to peace. It's the key to remembering of what is. And we start to let go and just, okay, it's just now. It's just now. I may hate my body right now, but wait, this is a new now. I took this breath. Well, at least I got this breath. Okay, whew. Oh, I forgot that I was hating my body. Well, wow, that was a nice now that I wasn't hating my body, but now I'm hating it again. Oh, wow, look at that bird. Oh, but that's a new now. Okay. And just to keep bringing us back to the now.
Like a boxer.
Really? Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Squirrel. The eternal now is the key. It's to me, that's where presence is. To
Yes.
me, presence is consciousness, which is God, which is now. We can't have any of those without the other. It's all the same thing.
Hmm.
So for anyone who's having a challenge with anything, grace be given, and take a deep breath, friend. It's just now. You'll get another one, promise.
And
Forever.
interesting because right because this is where choice comes in. You
Hmm.
can choose to suffer, or you can choose to stay in the now and know that you're okay in the now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I can hate my gray hair. I actually don't. I like it, but just an example.
You go there.
But it's like, I could hate it. I could love it. I could ignore it. Here's the thing. It's still there. Yeah. Like it's still there. That's the thing. So the only thing that changed about my gray hair is my attitude toward it. And this attitude can go toward anything. When I had the moments and days and months and years that I could barely walk and I couldn't stand up alone and like, oh yeah, bet I didn't like it,
Mm,
but I didn't hate me. for feeling. I didn't hate my back for not working. I didn't hate my hips for not working. I hated that I was experiencing pain and that I couldn't help myself. But I also knew, well, it's either like this is still only temporary because either I'm going to die in my physical with this or it'll shift. Well, I'm now curious. Well, but if I'm curious, then I'm no longer in judgment and I'm less suffering.
Yes. Yes. Wow. I always end these conversations with a few questions that I ask the same question to all the people that I talk to. And the first one is, what does awakening mean to you at this time on the planet?
I see a flower continuing to blossom like a rose. I see it's not an awakening of the mind. I see it's an awakening of a physical, not the physical heart, but this energy center of that emanates through everyone. It's an awakening of love and now on earth. That's how I see that.
It's beautiful. And what is soul divinity to you?
Mm. I see them as being the same. I think I see everything as divine, as divinity. So to me, it's soul divinity would be my own recognition of the divine, of the I am that I call myself by name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I love that. What you can tell I'm reading these, right?
I
Um,
love it though.
what is unconditional love?
Oh, it brings tears into my eyes when I feel into it. It is life. It is source. It is what we all are. It's what we all deserve. It is the most powerful anything that can heal anything, that can completely transform any reality in the blink of an eye. And it's a gift that not only we are, but we can actually feel and give infinitely. And what a beautiful mystery it is because of its infinite nature and our own forgetfulness of it.
Mm. And the last question is, what is God or source to you?
Unconditional love, the divine, the great mystery, the darkness, the light, the dance.
Everything we talked about.
Yeah,
That's,
I see it all as the is, the presence, the grace,
yeah. Wow.
the wordless.
Yes, 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 yes. Huh, okay, so this one's an easy one. How can someone get in touch with you? Like, where to
555.
555
Not everyone's going to get that. So
No,
if you're in the age range, you're welcome.
that's hilarious.
Or
Or
you can find me at Jane the Guide anywhere. So janetheguide.com, Instagram, Jane the Guide, Facebook, Jane the Guide, or Jane Ritz for my personal page. Linktree, I think is even Linktree / Jane the Guide. You can Google Jane the Guide. I will show up.
magically. Ah.
Yeah. I'm everywhere as myself.
I'll put the links in the description below too. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you do some really great work out there. I can say that I've experienced it, even though it made me throw up and do all kinds of fun stuff. Anyway, but that's how you get rid of it. Everything that I've done over the last 8 years always involves something releasing from my body. Let's just say that. I'm not going into any kind of more detail than that. Uh, anyway, and I am incredibly grateful that you decided to come on again because I mean, we had a great time on that conversation the last time we were together, and this was beautiful. This is a whole nother level to what we talked about before. And yeah, and this just means so much to me. And just to be able to even get you out there even more to connect with people and do the work that you do. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we go?
In relation to anything in particular?
whatever pops into your head. If there's some famous last, I would like to get this out there that you didn't ask me this question, whatever you choose.
Mm. One, I would say to please follow me on whatever medias because I do have things that are coming through that are for the highest good of the collective. That and to remember to take a deep breath because it's not that big of a deal. That
That's right.
it's okay. None of it matters. That
That's
we're all gonna die. We're all infinite beings in a finite blip. So it's okay. It's okay to love each other. It's okay to love ourselves. It's okay to be curious. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to be in curiosity. It's okay. It's all okay. It's okay to laugh. That's what I want to remind people of. That no matter what, it's going to be fine because we all get to the same finish line of death.
which is still not a finish line.
Exactly. Exactly.
And this piece right here was why I love to have Jane on, because the glow and the light and the the fun and all this stuff that she just shines forth is like it's so inspirational to me, and I'm like, yay, she did it. Okay. This is good stuff. Again, thank you for being here, and we'll see where this takes us next.
Definitely. Thank you so much, sister, for creating this and having me on here. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Everyone, thank you for watching. Appreciate you, and hope you got some good tips out of here, out of this conversation, and look forward to some more on Awakening Soul Divinity. All right.